All right, folks, welcome. Happy July, everyone. Thank you so much for taking the time. It's great to have so many folks on the call, especially on what I find to be a pretty popular vacation month. So thanks for taking the time. Excited to have you here. We got a few things that we want to cover today. Um, for those of you that are new to the GovAI Coalition, welcome. Introduce yourselves in the chat, say hello. This is a space for all of us to come together, working together, both public sector practitioners, our civil society partners, and our partners in industry coming together to support AI for the public good. This is all about community and coalition building. So feel free to have conversations in the chat. I think Zoom now allows people to make threads. So feel free to just go wild there, share contact information, share things that you're interested in, have fun with it. And in the meantime, we're going to share a bunch of information about the coalition wide to all y'all today. First off, we'll just give a few announcements, especially around the summit, the GovAI Coalition Summit, November 5th through 7th. We just released the agenda for that, so we'll show that off for a sec. Give a few other announcements, and then we'll move into a conversation later with Layla and Nick Garcia, who's on the call, to talk through what we're seeing right now on the AI action plan that was recently released by the federal government, and just what that impacts might be on the state and local side, and how we should be thinking about things there. Then we'll dive into committee updates on what is actually happening on the ground floor here in the coalition. If anything seems interesting to you or you want to get involved, don't be afraid to reach out to anyone that's speaking in the chat. Feel free to just, ask questions. And then hopefully, if we've got some time at the end of the meeting, I can stay on for a little bit and answer any questions we got. So with that, let's keep it moving. For those of you that are new to the coalition, we have 6 ways that we are pushing on AI for the public good, from helping people adopt AI, just understand it from an educational perspective, how it fits into government, the data governance that sits behind AI, how we actually buy AI systems and making sure that the systems that we buy follow the responsible practices that we want, how we work hand in hand with our industry partners to make sure that we are producing the best systems that we can, what actual use cases look like on our day-to-day applications, and how do we bring our community along with us. We have a couple of places for folks to get started, but I think the best place at this point is if you curious about any of our events, sessions, whatever you want to call it, that link with the Google Calendar and seeing all of our events, and just start poking around, asking questions, saying hello. It's a great place to get involved in the community. I just dropped the link to that calendar in the chat. Let's move to the next slide. Okay, our July newsletter is out, and Layla, if you're able to drop a link to that in the chat, whole variety of updates. Huge shout out, as always, to Layla and Chelsea and the rest of the coalition for bringing this stuff together, putting it out. Valuable information for what you need to know when it comes to AI in government right now. Take a look at it. They'll drop the link in the chat, and we sent out an email to the coalition just yesterday, or maybe it was this morning, on it. Move to the next slide. Thank you. Other thing that we just want to highlight, the Coalition Summit. So this will be our 2nd annual summit right here in San Jose, California, November 5th to 7th, all around the GovAI Coalition, from, frankly, all the things that we work on, from building a strong data foundation, AI safety, bringing our community along, and actually being able to give our government folks space to talk shop and really think through how they're using AI or not using AI here today in their own space. that link is going to take you to this summit. Thank you for dropping that in the chat, Layla. And one thing that I'll just note, Chelsea, I'm going to replace the share for a moment here, is we have our uh, we finally have the agenda for all of our sessions up there on the GovTech website. So very excited around this. I know some folks might not be able to make it, but for those that are able to or able to come out, really excited to see you all there. We've got everything from tabletop exercises on AI incident response to how we think about training and building up our workforce, all the way to security. And what I find really valuable across all of this, which is really just an opportunity for folks to talk amongst each other, share that knowledge and understanding around what makes sense for us in the public sector right now. The Friday, one of my, I love the whole session, but our Friday is a government only day where our government folks just get to talk shop and share best practices among themselves as well. So excited for the whole thing. A huge thank you again to our partners at GovTech and our partners and sponsors that are making this possible. So take a look at it. Excited to see some of y'all there. And with that, Chelsea, I'll pass the screen back to you. And if you got any questions on any of the summit stuff, don't be afraid to reach out to Layla, myself. You can reach us at our individual work emails or the digital privacy email. Layla can drop some of that in the chat. Yeah, I think that just about covers the summit there. And if you got any questions right now, feel free to just message us in the Zoom. Let's see, we can move to the next slide. And I think this is when I'll pass it off to Layla and Nick to share more about what we're seeing right now on the recent AI action plan that just got released. So Layla, I'll pass it to you.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Albert. Hey, everyone. Happy summer. Thanks for being here today. If we haven't met before, I'm Layla, Privacy and AI Analyst at the City of San Jose. And before we get to this item, actually, quick note, just real quick about the summit. There are also GovTech specific contacts on the event page so that if you're interested in sponsorship or you have a question about registration or something like that, you can reach out to those specific GovTech contacts that are on the webpage. But with some of that housekeeping out of the way, today our featured speaker is going to be talking about the AI action plan that was released by the Trump administration exactly a week ago, actually. Many of you may have heard about this plan in the news. Basically, it set forth the White House's priorities for AI, and it was accompanied by a number of executive orders to enact those AI priorities. And so to be better informed about what the AI action plan is, and especially what it means for local and state government agencies, we're really fortunate to be joined today by Nick Garcia, who's a senior policy counsel at Public Knowledge. For those who aren't familiar, Public Knowledge is a DC-based public interest organization that promotes freedom of expression, open internet, and access to affordable communication tools. Nick, who's with us today, focuses on emerging technologies, intellectual property, and closing the digital divide. And before joining Public Knowledge, Nick served as an assistant district attorney in the investigations division of the Bronx County District Attorney's Office, and he received his JD from Georgetown University Law Center. So Nick, thank you so much for joining us today, especially on pretty short notice after the AI action plan was released last week. So that our coalition members could hear the latest from you, since you're an expert on it. You wrote an article last week that I feel broke down the action plan really well right before it came out, kind of through the lens of hopes and fears of, what it could get right and what it could get wrong. And we'll drop that link in the chat in just a second so that folks can read that if they'd like to. But just to start us off, we'll kick it off with some of the basics. Nick, could you share more about what the action plan is? What kind of policy package is it, and what's inside?
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be able to join all you great folks who are doing this great work. And thanks so much for the invite. I'm happy to be here sharing some of this, some of my insights and knowledge with you. I hope it will be informative. When it comes to the action plan, the introduction was exactly correct. What's important to know about this is that the action plan itself is a recommendation that comes from the Office of Science and Technology Policy, the State Department, as well as the White House's AI czar, and it's technically a recommendation to the president about what the kind of overall direction of America's AI strategy should be. It emerged out of a process of notice and comment feedback that many people participated in. They received over 10,000 comments from states and localities, from civil society organizations like Public Knowledge, and of course from a lot of folks in the industry. And based on all of that feedback, that is like kind of how this action plan was shaped in accordance with the White House's own set of priorities. So the action plan itself is that kind of high-level policy direction document, and it's organized around 3 pillars. It has accelerating AI innovation as one pillar. It has AI infrastructure as a second pillar, and then the third pillar is related to like international leadership regarding AI. Those 3 broad pillars each have different subsections and related actions in it. I won't break it all down, but easy to find on ai.gov. And then there was also, as was mentioned, 3 executive orders that came out, one on permitting reform as it related to federal data centers. One is titled Preventing Woke AI in the Federal Government, which is something I think we'll talk about it a little bit more later. And then the last one is on promoting the export of US technology all up and down the AI stack. So those are the 3 executive orders that are the actual substantive stuff that the White House has taken to implement the plan at this point. Other than that, these are kind of high levels, kind of speculative directional stuff. And we have to wait and see exactly how all of it is going to be implemented. Although we're starting to see over this past week, various agencies responding to the plan. So there you go.
Thanks, Nick. That was a really helpful summary. Just a quick follow-up. I don't know if you have any information for us on this, but I'm curious, like, if you have a sense of how easily this package potentially could be changed or overturned administration to administration. Does this seem like it's something that's pretty, like set in stone, or is it one of those more things that you see changing with the political tides over time?
Yeah. It's really a great question. I mean, it's important to note that this is incredibly fluid. So under the first Trump administration, they had a plan. They had some executive orders. When President Biden took office, he undid some of those executive orders and supplemented them with his own executive orders. When President Trump came back into the White House, way back in January, one of his first steps was an executive order that undid a bunch of Biden's executive orders related to AI. And initiated the process for the comments that led to this action plan. So now we have yet another new action plan, and we have a set of new executive orders that replaced some of the ones that were withdrawn. So this is something that will continue to be extremely fluid over the course of this administration and future ones. Anything that happens at this executive level are things that are not set in stone. Any president can change these at any point. So the things that are really here to look out for are what the concrete effects are going to be that flow out of the action plan for some time, and how those become ingrained into kind of the environment that we already have. To start editorializing a little bit, I mean, so I'm coming at this from PK as a nonprofit, nonpartisan public interest organization. We are trying to keep clear eyes about how this stuff is meeting the goals of the technology, aligning with our values of creating a more free and open internet, and kind of digital society more broadly. My take on the action plan, and I'm happy to talk about this more in depth, but is that what we are seeing here is that the Trump administration is taking a big step back, is the best way to look at it, and trying to let private industry run the show in terms of determine how AI works, how this economy and marketplace is going to develop. And that's really a bad thing if you are worried about the fact that there's already a lot of consolidation within this tech industry stack. And it's particularly concerning given that even if what your real goal is to drive forward AI innovation, to accelerate positive use cases and accelerate benefits out to people, this is not a plan that really is taking affirmative steps to do that. It's really doing a lot that just steps back. And instead of investing in AI in a positive way or sharing a vision for how AI makes people's lives better, it's kind of taking the hands off the wheel.
Thank you. So I know you just mentioned that the policy package specifically calls out quote unquote woke AI. There's even a specific EO that is literally called Preventing Woke AI in the federal government. And because of this rhetoric that has really permeated and in a sense come to dominate the national conversation, the way that we talk about AI, there's a sense that many of our staff could now be in a position where leadership in their organization, at their government agency, or the public, they're concerned about woke AI, or they're thinking about, the need to win the AI race, which, that sort of winning AI is kind of the overarching framing of how the Trump administration is approaching this. So Nick, could you kind of break down those things for us and let us know what myths are out there that us government practitioners should be prepared to bust within our organizations?
Yeah, this preventing woke AI thing is a real problem. I spoke on a Federalist Society panel last year also about this question, talking about, just is AI woke? And the thing that I think we really need to keep in mind is that when we are talking about AI systems, there is no such thing as neutral. It's easy to have this idea that these things can be built somehow in a way that they are just, somehow a reflection of, pure machine logic or something like this. But that's not the case. The training data that we use, the subjectivities that human beings build into the system in terms of their design, choices we make in terms of how we deploy things and the safeguards that are implemented in them, all of these things shape, things about the system and what the values are. Under the Biden administration, they passed some executive orders and things regarding government's adoption of the use of systems, and they specifically called out that systems that the government was adopting should be evaluated to be free from bias, and evaluations should be done to prevent discrimination. This is what is feared by the current administration in terms of woke AI, apparently. And what they are trying to implement in this Preventing Woke AI executive order is this definition of neutral or unbiased, meaning that there is no ideological bias coded into the thing, that it is truth-seeking, and it uses this very neutral sounding language. And I talk about this a little bit in my blog post, but I think that's a mistaken idea. It's what it really is it's replacing one set of values, which is affirmatively trying to build a pluralistic, democratic, responsible approach to AI into what the government adopts, versus saying that we're going to step back and let those private companies or other kinds of things make, irresponsible decisions about how these models affect people. I think that's a really difficult thing to talk about because it is cloaked in this language of neutrality in the context of this Preventing Woke AI thing. But I think we need to be clear-eyed about what is really happening is not going from a values-driven implementation under one administration to a more neutral, free speech-oriented perspective under the other. It's replacing one set of values with a different set of values. And that's what's really, at play here. And I think we can see from some of the other actions that the administration has taken that its sense of free speech and unbiased really more often encodes its perspectives and other ideological beliefs into these things. We've seen this at the FCC, which ought to be a bastion against censorship and promoting free expression, but is often now under the leader of Chair Carr, being used to, retributively go after media companies and others that aren't aligned with the administration. So I think there's a lot to be worried about there. And I think that is more the concern in terms of this kind of executive order is its potential censorial effects. Yeah, that's the concern.
Yeah, no, thank you, Nick. I think the big myth that I'm hearing from you that our coalition members should be prepared to talk about and to kind of dispel within their organizations is this myth of neutrality or objectivity of technology, right? Because humans are the ones designing and developing these technological systems, and as they do so, they're encoding their values through the decisions that they make. And so just because we call something free of ideological bias, that doesn't mean that that's actually the case. And in fact, it can be dangerous to assume so. Thank you for breaking that down for us. I think this next question is something that our members are particularly interested in. If, as someone who works at a local or state agency, if I'm still focused on making sure that the AI that my government uses serves the public good, how does all this, how does the AI action plan impact what I can do? Can I still regulate or incentivize responsible AI in my jurisdiction? What other levers might I have at my disposal to do that?
Yeah. So a couple of points here is that one, when it comes to some of these things about trying to encode values into AI, it's worth noting that this is purely for the systems that are adopted by government, is what they're talking about in the context of the executive order generally. Obviously, there's First Amendment free speech restrictions that the government would have in trying to mandate values being built into AI systems more broadly. And PK are staunch defenders of free expression and the First Amendment, and so it's important to note that we want to build in values when it comes to what we are choosing to do democratically as governments, because that is the role that government has to take. When government is elected, the people expect them to implement the values that they represent. But then more broadly, we want to see AI be implemented in a way where people are able to determine the values that they interact with it when they interact with the systems. And so when it comes to incentivizing responsible and trustworthy AI, there are actually some pretty good things in the executive order that I think we want to be excited about, which is some steps taken in order to supplement research on AI transparency, on AI controllability, on understandability. All of those things are really essential components to responsible AI, or I often like to talk about trustworthy AI. I think if we want to really see adoption of AI broadly in our society to drive a lot of the good benefits that we know might be out there, people need to trust the systems. And the only way that they're going to do that is if they can understand how they work, what they're doing, and have good control over them. So continuing research in those areas is really important, especially with generative AI. These systems remain quite, for lack of a better word, spooky. People don't have a good understanding of how they make the decisions that they do, even where some of the capabilities of these systems come from. And so continuing down that research path, which the government is incentivizing, is a good one. The other thing related to states and localities especially is that there's some reason to be concerned in the action plan, given some language around how the government wants to condition the distribution of discretionary funding through OMB based on state regulatory environments towards AI. This language is pretty vague still. It's right in the first section if anyone wants to take a look at it. If you read it, you'll know as much as I do or anyone else about what exactly this will mean for us, although we can probably expect some OMB guidance, but it's in the cutting red tape section. It basically says that wants federal agencies to review states and make decisions about how discretionary funding gets distributed based on their regulatory environment. Again, we at Public Knowledge worry that that might translate into trying to restrict funds to specific states based on them having regulations on the books that they don't like. So that's something to be mindful about. Similarly, that's directed the FCC in order to see if there are any state regulations that maybe conflict with the Communications Act. I would say that we have a deep bench of knowledge about the Communications Act and the Federal Communications Commission at Public Knowledge, but even we don't really understand what that might mean. And Chair Carr has just made some vague statements that he's going to look into it. So we'll have to see what that one means also. So I think those are the ones that, if I'm in state or local government, I would be like a little bit worried about what the administration intends to do there. But in other ways, I think the state and local governments are still very free to especially incentivize responsible use, adoption, and come up with other ways that AI can be used in government or more broadly adopted in our communities in order to promote positive and beneficial use cases.
Thank you for that. And I just want to emphasize for folks we have on the call who are at state agencies, Nick mentioned something important that I do think you should be mindful of. You can take a look at that first section that he mentioned in the action plan, which is that there is a little bit of an allusion to potentially an impact on funds that are given to state governments based on how they are regulating AI. So just something to be mindful of, not trying to fearmonger or anything like that, but we want folks on the call to be prepared for anything that could be coming down the line. Nick, I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to add to that.
Yeah, I would add one thing. Yeah, there's there's a lot of amazing activity in the chat. I wish I could answer all the questions that were coming up as well.
By.
Yeah, but some people have mentioned the AI moratorium that was potentially going to be part of the budget bill. I will confirm that, yes, that got pulled out thanks to the efforts of a broad coalition of people, that there is no 10-year moratorium on state AI regulations that was initially proposed in the budget bill. But certainly this is a soft kind of version of it that exists in the action plan. And we've heard rumors in DC and indications from folks like Ted Cruz that they want to bring back that moratorium in some form. Hopefully, we will continue to be able to defeat it at the federal level and will not be something that prevents states from being able to chart their own course. I think it's really important to consider in terms of federalism and state and local governance that Congress has been quite dysfunctional when it comes to taking action on AI. And so we think it's a great thing when states want to step up and figure out different mechanisms. Even when they're quite different between some states, so some people are going to take a more regulatory approach. Other folks are going to want to incentivize innovation in other ways. I think it's great for the U.S. to think about how to experiment with those and lean on the benefits of federalism and our laboratories of democracy at the state and local level to figure things out before maybe we coalesce, nationally on what those standards or guardrails should be. But yeah, we'll have to see how that continues to develop in terms of the moratorium.
Yeah. I think we have time for one question from the audience. I see a great question from Bratton in the chat. Bratton is asking, my understanding of AI regulations at the government level are completely intertwined with proper data governance, which is important to creating trustworthy AI. So the question is, can't governments focus on data governance policies and use less AI terminology to kind of avoid some of these political issues that we're seeing with the AI action plan?
Wow, really great question. So data governance is a tricky lever to use here, given that when it comes to these AI models, it's important to understand, and I'm sure a lot of people here have a lot of fluency on this already, but just to make it super clear, a lot of what is built into the models is, for lack of a better word, baked in after the training process. There is also absolutely these days increasingly ways in which AI is operating on our ongoing existing data infrastructures in terms of how it's then used on top of our data. But when these models are trained, a lot of the underlying behaviors and capabilities that are built on the data that goes into it, it's no longer actively accessing that stuff. It's built into it. And so when it comes to the kind of data governance environment, we can think about how we're deploying AI to operate on large data systems, definitely as an aspect of governance when it comes to AI. But when it comes into how data is built into the models in order to shape their kind of original behavior and how deployment occurs, that's a little bit more complicated because that really does have to happen at scale, and it happens not really on an ongoing basis. It happens like during these large training runs in these frontier AI labs. It's a complicated question. I think one other lens that's related to this is thinking about how to ensure there are more people that are actively involved in training more and different AI models that serve different varied community interests and values. And a way that we can do that from a data governance perspective is invest in things like public data sets that state, local governments, and others can work towards building those public data sets that close some of the gap between these like very big companies like Google and Microsoft and people that want to enter and be competitors from a state or local level and provide something that is more tailored to their community, but they lack access to the data that like a big tech company might have in order to do AI training. It's one of the bottlenecks, and there are others in terms of compute access and things like that. But when it comes to a data governance perspective, that's an area where folks can do some good work.
Thanks so much, Nick. And I will say that kind of creating those shared data sets is something that the coalition is working on. And so if y'all want to contribute to that effort and you're on the call, you can get involved in the use case committee, which is working on shared models and shared data sets to really move AI forward in the public sector. Nick, this has been lovely. Thank you so much for your time. If folks want to follow public knowledge or your work specifically, what's the best way for them to keep in touch?
Yeah, best way to keep in touch is you can just check out our blog and stuff that we do, publicknowledge.org. We're all very easy to reach. All of our emails are publicly accessible. So if you want to talk about AI issues, I'm your guy. I'm Nick at publicknowledge.org, and I'll drop that in the chat as well. I've got many colleagues working on many different other issues. We mostly work at the federal level, but especially in this environment, we think it's really important to continue to stay engaged with states. And the other thing is that for responsible folks interested in responsible AI deployments within state and local governments, the other thing I would point people towards is the Public AI Network, which is a coalition that I help organize, which you can find at publicai.network. That's a very large network that composes of all kinds of folks, civil society people, activists, state and local government folks, AI researchers in the United States and abroad, all focused on how the public sector can be more involved in shaping our future when it comes to AI. So please do feel free to drop me a line about the Public AI Network if you want to become more involved in that. We have a very active Slack and a great community that we're developing there as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Nick. It's been a really great conversation and very informative for the coalition, as you can see by the chat that's just been flying by this whole time. Appreciate you joining us. Albert, with that, I will pass it back to you to carry on with our normal business.
Thank you, Layla, and thank you again, Nick, for taking the time. I really appreciate if there's things that I'm personally taking away from this as a local government practitioner, right? There are in these action plans pushes for transparency and safety that we've become accustomed to, and I think that highlights things like the AI fact sheet that we have right here in the coalition, the pushes for transparency that we have in working on the AI registry, building out the value of shared data models and shared applications like we have in our use cases committee. And as we think about the foundation of this AI, the data governance that comes, and in part working in our happening in our data governance committee right now. So thank you again, and really appreciate you taking the time to give us this up-to-date information, and excited to see where it goes. With that, we'll kick off committee updates. So for those that are new, this is just what's going on in the coalition from different committees. If anything seems interesting to you, don't be afraid to reach out to the people running that committee. They've got their emails on the chat, or you can reach out to the facilitator. We've got the email right there. And we'll also drop the calendar for the coalition back into the chat, which is the easiest way to join any committee is just grab the calendar invites off of our calendar, come in, say hello. With that, Layla, I'll look to you. Is Meg on the call, Meg or Liz on the call, or Ryan? I see you're on. If you,
I think Liz will give the update today.
Awesome.
Yeah, thanks. Hi, everyone. Greetings from the Community Engagement Committee. I am really excited to announce that we have our first artifact from the committee's work. If you saw this month's newsletter, you'll see that we have talking points to use for your leadership. This is really a way, sometimes when we're doing public engagement, the first step is to get your leadership on board on why you want to do public engagement. And in this case, it's really about explaining why it's so important to talk to the public about how, not only how your agency is planning on using AI in government operations, but also to bring them in early to help them maybe even drive what use cases you should pursue, also possibly what guardrails you put in place on how you're using AI. So if you check out the newsletter, you'll see that it's really, the talking points are in 4 main categories. One being about why it's good that we make sure that how we use AI through community engagement, we make sure that it's aligned with community values. Why, by going out and being very upfront on how we're using AI, will help build trust in the community. Also thinking about how if we talk to the community early, that could save us time and money down the line if they come back to us later and say, wow, we have some different ideas on this. But also, probably one of the most important things is giving the community an opportunity to build their skills so they can use AI, not only when they interact with you, but also provide that service when they're using AI in other ways. So I have to give a big thanks to our committee because this was really a crowdsourced effort. So really excited on this. And from here, we're building on it with the continuation of the matchmaking program. And then following that, the engagement guide. So that's it for us. Thanks for the time.
Thank you, Liz, and thank you, community engagement team. So excited to see those talking points. And Chelsea, just to correct me, are those on the website? Are those on our resources page for the coalition?
Yeah, the talking points, I just threw them in the chat. It's the link right for the coalition calendar.
Awesome. Thank you. Rich, I'll pass it to you and Seher for readiness and adoption.
Great. Thank you, Albert. Our committee continues to focus on making AI adoption more accessible and achievable for public agencies at every stage of readiness. So this committee and its various working groups have just really had a ton of momentum lately. It's been really inspiring in these meetings to see all the ways that they are helping to create resources to improve AI adoption. So some highlights from our work, the upskilling working group within the committee has written an upskilling playbook and a companion slide presentation designed to help agencies build out internal AI skill capacity. This playbook is really detailed, provides a ton of useful information about how to upscale your workforce. And it's meant to be practical and modular, so you can adapt this wherever you're at in your process, whether you're just beginning or refining your existing efforts. So kudos to this working group for all of their hard work on this playbook and presentation. Also, we're sharing a series of public sector focused AI learning videos from the city of San Jose in partnership with San Jose State University. Topics in this deck range from like an overview of ChatGPT, how to create custom GPTs, prompt crafting, risks, data analysis. So these are available on YouTube and are a great supplement to self-paced AI upskilling. Thank you, Albert, for sharing that resource along. We have also completed our first introductory webinar, which has been published on YouTube. The link is there as well. In addition to training staff at our member agencies about responsible AI adoption, our committee also provides training to coalition members about how to get the most out of their coalition membership. So this webinar helps new members understand the coalition, access all of its valuable resources and templates, and helps new members understand how they can get involved and contribute in all of our various committees and efforts that you hear about in this meeting. And Seher and I have recorded our first effort, and if anybody takes it and gives it a run through, we would appreciate any feedback you have, so we can continue to make this a valuable tool. Seher is available for one-on-one direct support if you need help tailoring your adoption strategy to fit your organization's specific context or needs. She's a great resource for getting started with that. So you can reach out to her or, or Albert through the Readiness and Adoption Committee if you'd like this level of support. So in addition to these actions, the committee is continuing to move forward a variety of sector-specific AI trainings, and we'll provide an update on those activities in future meetings. So, we meet twice a month. We're always looking for more voices and more people to contribute on our projects. So give us a shout out or jump into the next meeting. We'd love to see you.
Thank you, Rich. And just I want to give a huge shout out, especially as Rich just said, our AI upskilling working group has really put in some work, led by Lon and Rick, who I think are both on the call here. They've been doing a fantastic job of putting both a playbook and a presentation together. So you got, your in-depth, and you've also got something you can share out. Really great work there. And the introductory webinar, it's got to be the best thing to share with folks now when they're just getting started with the coalition. I personally really like where it went. So great job on that as well. So thank you guys.
Great, thank you.
Let's move to the next slide here. And I'll pass it to Emily. Are you?
Emily's not on the call, so I'll jump in again. Thanks,
Perfect.
Albert. So regarding the cooperative procurement that has been ongoing, the team has worked to build out the process for including expert input in the development of the RFP and in the evaluation process for that. In terms of the use case, we had previously mentioned digital twin technology. For this first cooperative that's going to be led by the coalition, we're actually going to move forward with an enterprise large language model tool as the use case. And the reason is because this use case is a little less complex than the digital twin package. And it's also going to allow the team to really hone this model exemplary cooperative procurement process that they're trying to build out. And we also know that many agencies are interested in Gen AI and LLM tools for their organization. So this use case should hopefully be very timely and kind of meet the moment of what agencies are interested in and what questions I think a lot of us might be having about how to evaluate these kinds of tools. So that's the major update there for this committee. As always, check out the AI Contract Hub if you haven't taken a look in a while. Pavilion, who maintains this hub for us, they add new contracts regularly, so there might be stuff on there that you haven't seen yet. And then quick announcement that there will not be a committee meeting tomorrow for the procurement committee due to conflicts, but we're going to reconvene as usual in August. All right, back to you, Albert.
Thank you, Layla, and excited for the LLM cooperative procurement. Let's see. Yar, I see you're on. Do you want to run through the Industry Relations Committee?
Sure. Thank you, Albert. Just a quick few updates. Last time we spoke about running the alpha tests with both the government agencies and the vendors for our new AI registry platform. This time, we've collected a lot of useful feedback. Hortus and they've collected that feedback. They have made a lot of improvements in the platform, and I believe we are ready to do some beta tests, actually not alpha tests, next month. So there will be closed beta tests, but it's going to be open to the coalition members, and you can give it a try posting or finding a fact sheet, see how you like it, what works, what doesn't work, what else you would like to see. We're going to collect that feedback as well. CMU research, they're still work in progress. They're still open to more interview participants. So I'll have a QR code and link in the next slide here for you, for those of you who are interested to participate. It's just a quick 15-minute interview. And then I believe they have a follow-up call that's a little longer. Vendor focus group, that's a new thing, initiative in this committee. We want to give an opportunity to the vendors to collaborate and expand their role in the coalition and provide us feedback on how that relationship between the agencies and the vendors can be improved. So you're still looking for interested vendors. There are some candidates already, but we want to get some more. So if any of you are interested, if there's any vendors on this call, I'll have a link and a QR code for you to fill out as well. So our first meeting will happen on August 22nd at 11 a.m. Pacific time. So that would be 2 p.m. Eastern time, depending on where you are. And let's go to the next slide. I'll post the links to those forms as well in the chat. Albert, you want to switch to the next slide, please? Awesome. Yeah, so if you've got a screen in front of you, you can scan the QR codes. If you want to use the chat, links in the chat, I just posted them as well. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Yar, and thank you, team. I'll pass it to Hemant for our use cases committee.
Thanks, Albert, and a very good afternoon, guys. So just a quick update on July 15th, and thank you to all of you who attended the amazing session we had on use of Microsoft 365 Copilot chat, and of course the M365 Copilot. So some amazing presentations, and Jamie shared the link to the Zoom recording. So please, if you haven't had a chance to attend the meeting, certainly review that. What I took from that, because we're using Copilot in our environment too, and I learned a lot from all of the participants on the panel. And the central theme, which I think we all can relate to, was that make sure you try before you buy approach, so in a phased approach of implementation of Copilot chat. Yes, when it first got released in the government cloud, there were a lot of errors and misrepresentation of information, but over time, it seems that the Copilot chat has become more acceptable, certainly more accurate. But again, do it in a phased pilot fashion, small groups, gather feedback, and then keep reiterating until your internal team that's in charge of deployment is comfortable for widespread adoption, which should, at the least, include some comprehensive training. So those are lessons I learned from that conversation on July 15. So again, please feel free to review the YouTube video that Jamie has posted. A link for that is in the PowerPoint presentation. So with that, Albert, if you can go next slide, please.
Chelsea, are you able to go to? Oh, awesome.
Oh, there you go. Perfect. So next session for our use case committee is on August 5th. And this is also going to be an amazing session. So I can't wait for that. So Micah, who is a deputy city manager at Maricopa, city of Maricopa, and he is in the book. So Nicole has invited him as part of GovAI to present and talk about fragile systems. It's a book he wrote. And so I'm looking forward to having an in-depth conversation regarding that. So he will be speaking, and then we have demonstrations from two vendors, Super City AI and Madison AI. So again, August 5th, please mark your calendar for that. Look forward to seeing as many of you can join as possible. So that's all I have, Albert, as of now. Thank you.
So thank you, Hemant, and really excited for the upcoming demos. And I dropped the link in the chat to the recording of the Copilot chat discussion that we had. Really good insights there, the good, the bad, the lessons learned from that. Highly recommend. And yes, the next meetings, and I believe all of our use cases committee meetings, they're recorded. And I'll drop the link. We have a playlist of all the use case committee meetings on our YouTube page. So we'll drop the link to that in a second. But I want to pass it off to Sarah for our data governance committee.
Hi, thank you. Okay, so here in terms of an update from the Data Governance Committee, as a reminder, we're initially focusing on drafting a data sharing agreement template as our first deliverable. And so we are really, really close to being finished with that. Our last round of feedback has come in or is continuing to come in, like last call, because we are working to finalize that template within the next week or so. So there was a lot of kind of refinement and conversation around cybersecurity, incident response, and also potentially adding, or not potentially, we'll be adding some examples around a data lexicon for some standardized language. And Anthony was really helpful in the providing a template for that as well. So that'll be part of it. So we're all working off some standard operating language. So that'll be a resource as well. For organizations particularly that may not have their kind of own data lexicon. So that's where we're at with that. Looking to wrap that up, like I said, within the next week or so. So last call on any kind of feedback within the document itself. And then our next meeting will be on the 18th, where we'll kind of high level go through the final version of what that looks like, and then focus on the next deliverable, which is around data strategy, data governance strategy, and how we can work to develop something that's really useful for the coalition and supports enablement of data sharing across organizations in a way that makes sense from a data governance perspective. So helping support kind of the bones of kind of AI enablement across organizations or within organizations. So that's where we're at, and we'll start focusing on that second deliverable throughout probably the remainder of the year.
Thank you so much, Sarah, and really excited
Yeah.
for where the data sharing agreement has gone. This has been a collaborative effort across agencies across states, which is to say, we've been trying to navigate a variety of different regulations to provide something that can serve as a foundation for if you're an agency in Florida trying to share information with an agency in California, or just trying to share with a university that's right next door to you. Like, what does that template look like that you can use for whatever your next data sharing is? I think that type of sharing and collaboration is a key unlock for us to be able to do some really cool stuff, especially with AI being so data heavy for us to do cool things. So really excited for that. And I dropped the link in the chat, last call for edits there. And I think with that, we've reached the end here. So I'll drop this next step links in the chat. But look, check out the newsletter. We got all this stuff that we've talked about and more in there. Register for the Coalition Summit. That's in November. We've got our next meeting is the use cases demos that we've got on August 5th. Register for that. Take a look at our upskilling playbook and upskilling videos coming out of our Readiness Adoption Committee. And you can share our introductory video with our, anyone else that's interested in the coalition. Our next meeting is going to be August 27th at 1 p.m. Pacific. Hope to hear from you all in the meantime, but if not, take care. Thank you so much for taking the time. If you got any extra questions or anything, feel free to message me or email me or Layla. But thank you so much for taking the time, and have a great rest of your day.